For 30 years, Robert Wakefield lived a life of discipline. Every morning at exactly 6:30, his alarm rang. He would wake up, make a simple cup of coffee, and sit quietly by the window of his small apartment in London. The city outside was always moving. People rushing to work, cars filling the streets, neighbors laughing, arguing, living. But Robert's life followed the same routine every single day. At 7:30, he left for work. At 8:15, he sat at the same desk in the same office where he'd worked for decades. Robert was known as the most responsible employee in the company. He never missed a day. He never wasted money. And he never took risks while others in the office talked about vacations, new businesses, or exciting plans. Robert stayed quiet. His goal in life was simple: save money. Every month, he deposited almost his entire salary into his bank account. He avoided restaurants. He never bought new clothes unless absolutely necessary. He never traveled. His coworkers sometimes invited him on trips. "Robert, we're going to Spain this summer," one of them once said. "You should come with us." Robert smiled politely and shook his head. "Maybe one day," he said. "But when I have enough money." That sentence slowly became the story of his life. When I have enough money, years passed. Robert's friends started families. Some started businesses. Some failed and tried again, but Robert stayed exactly the same. His apartment remained small and quiet. His routine never changed, but his bank account kept growing. Every time Robert felt tired or bored, he reminded himself of one thing. One day he thought, when I have enough money, I will finally start living. He imagined traveling the world. He imagined walking through beautiful cities, tasting new foods, meeting new people. But those dreams were always placed in the future. Never today. Always someday. 30 years later, Robert was now 62 years old. His hair had turned gray, and his steps had become slower. One quiet Sunday morning, he opened his laptop and logged into his bank account. The number on the screen surprised even him. After decades of saving, Robert had more money than he had ever imagined. For the first time in his life, he allowed himself to smile with pride. "I did it," he whispered. "All these years, it was worth it." For the first time, he began planning his life. He looked at travel websites. He searched for flights to Italy, Japan, and Canada. He imagined himself walking through Rome, standing under the lights of Tokyo, watching the mountains of Switzerland. But a few days later, something unexpected happened. Robert started feeling unusually tired. At first, he ignored it. Just stress, he told himself. But the tiredness grew worse. Soon, even climbing the stairs to his apartment left him breathless. His doctor suggested a medical checkup. Robert didn't worry much. He had always lived carefully. But the test results told a different story. One afternoon, Robert sat quietly in the doctor's office as the doctor spoke slowly. "Robert, your heart is very weak. There are serious complications." Robert stared at the floor. The doctor continued gently. "You need treatment immediately, and even with treatment, you must slow down your life." Robert didn't say anything. For the first time in 30 years, he felt something heavy inside his chest. Not fear, regret. That evening, Robert returned to his quiet apartment. The same small apartment he had lived in for decades. He sat by the window with a cup of coffee. Outside, life was still moving. People walking, friends laughing, couples holding hands. And suddenly a painful realization entered his mind. For 30 years, Robert had been preparing to live, but he had never actually lived. He remembered all the invitations he had refused. All the trips he never took. All the experiences he postponed. Always waiting. Always saving. Always believing a future would be the perfect time. But life had quietly passed while he was planning it. A few days later, Robert went back to his bank account again. The number was still there. Bigger than ever. But now it looked different. Not exciting. Just empty. Because he finally understood something many people realized too late. Money can give you comfort, but it cannot give you back lost time. The next morning, Robert made a decision. For the first time in 30 years, he broke his routine. Instead of going to work, he walked into his manager's office. "I want to retire," Robert said calmly. His manager looked surprised. "You've worked here longer than anyone," he said. Robert smiled gently. "I know," he replied, "but I think it's time I finally start living." A few weeks later, Robert took his first trip. He traveled to Italy. He walked through old streets, tasted real Italian food, and watched sunsets over the sea. For the first time in his life, Robert wasn't thinking about saving money. He was thinking about living moments. And as he sat one evening watching the sun disappear over the ocean, he whispered something to himself. I wish I had started sooner. Because the most valuable thing in life is not money. It is time. And time is the one thing no one can save in a bank. Listen, saving money is well. Planning for the future is important, but never forget to live while you are building your future. Because one day you might realize something painful. You were so busy preparing to live, you forgot to enjoy life itself. If this story touched you, share and subscribe for more powerful motivational stories from Dream Tales.